Hi, welcome to the FinancialFox. Today is a bit different as we have got not one but two guests on the show. Simon Gorringe, new CEO of Andalas Energy, and Daniel Levi, the infamous blogger and high net worth investors. So everybody knows Dan's position on Andalas, but here Simon has the opportunity to clarify a question that Dan, like many investors, has on the company. So Simon, you joined Andalas last October as a CEO. With the mission to drive the company forward and refocus the strategy to finally deliver some value to shareholders. So I might kick off with the first question before handing over to Dan. And I would like just, if you could clarify what is the new strategy about and what are you going to change?
Okay, well, firstly, Stefania, thank you very much for inviting on board, and it's good to meet Dan in the flesh. What I'd like to do, if I could answer that in sort of four parts, I'd like to just explain what are we, because I think there has been a lot of confusion in the past as to what exactly is Andalas. And I'd also like to talk a bit about where Indonesia sits right now and what is the status of the IPP projects. And of course explain why we've come into the North Sea, because that'll be a new step for us. And I just want to take you through those points, if I may. So in terms of what are we, let's make it quite clear. We're an oil and gas exploration and production company. We're looking to invest in projects that deliver value in the sale of oil and gas. Now in terms of the past, and I know Dan wants to talk about the past, we have been unable to deliver in a timely manner for investors. And I regret that deeply, and I apologise to shareholders that we haven't been able to deliver on the promises that were made in the past. In terms of what I'm doing to reshape the company, Indonesia still sits very much as one of our core areas. We've talked a lot about wellhead IPPs, but as I think I explained in an earlier podcast, the problem is it just takes so long and it doesn't suit a company of our size. We're not able to deliver the news flow that actually gets the interest in the marketplace, just by the sheer nature of the projects that we're involved in. So we're very much focused now in E&P opportunities, which plays to our core skill. We're still maintaining the wellhead IPP strategy. We still have Sumatra 1, which is our sort of the most further progressed project of all the projects we've been looking at. But meanwhile, we're giving it the right attention, but we're not focusing 100% on that in terms of we're waiting for it to get to the right point in terms of where it is in the project cycle. Meanwhile, we're looking at E&P opportunities in Indonesia. I think one of the things I've identified is that the wellhead IPP has been over-promoted as to what it is. As an E&P company, you're always looking for ways of commercialising gas. And this strategy, wellhead IPP, was all about commercialising stranded gas. And I think we've just got to go back and talk about stranded gas and what is the way of commercialising. A wellhead IPP project is one way of doing it. There are three others. There's conventional gas processing, which you condition the gas and export it into the national transmission system, which is very common and typical here in the UK. But there are other technologies. There's gas to liquid. There's CNG, compressed natural gas, and there's LNG, liquefied natural gas. These are all commercialisation methods of commercialising gas. And I think it's been over the last year and a half, we've been talking about wellhead IPPs, and we haven't really explained that really it's a way of commercialising E&P, which is back to the core strategy, is about adding value to shareholders by selling oil and gas, and it's just a means of doing it. One of the other questions I think we have to answer is why North Sea? Why have we come into the North Sea? I think one of the things we realised, any E&P company is always trying to balance the portfolio, manage the risk, and the UK, interestingly enough, as you're probably aware, is becoming quite an attractive proposition. The majors are leaving the North Sea, the small independents are now coming in. It's opening up opportunities for investors and for companies like ourselves. I think I should also say I have a lot of experience in the North Sea, as does other board members and one of our key members of our team, Greg Mowini. So I've had many years of working in the Southern Basin, which is the area where Eagle are currently focused in with the Badger prospect. And what we liked about it is it gave us a toehold, a foothold back into the UK. And what we like about Eagle is that they provide us with deal flow, so it enables us to get more news out to the market and provides more activity. So we're trying to balance out between Indonesia, where I could say that technically it's got low risk. By that I mean, you know, you can go anywhere in Sumatra and punch a well in, you will find oil or gas. Yeah. Here in the UK, it's a little bit more technically challenging. But the good thing about the UK, it's got low fiscal and commercial risk, whereas in Indonesia, you're always worried a little bit about the fiscal and commercial regime. So for us, you know, we are an E&P company. We are still in Indonesia. We are still continuing with Sumatra 1, that is our #1 project, while still looking at E&P opportunities in Indonesia and here in the UK, and we're just building on our core skills. And it's all about finding ways of giving value back to shareholders.
Okay, sounds very promising. So, Dana, do you want to kick off with...
Yeah, what I want to do is, I know you're talking about the new strategy, but what I'm here to go through with you, which is what we did yesterday when we had quite a robust discussion. So I'd just like to let everyone know that I met these guys yesterday and we had a really robust discussion about what had gone on with Andalas Energy under the Dave Whitby era. So what I want to do is I want to focus on that past strategy and where that strategy went wrong and how it went so wrong for investors. Now, I accept that you accept everything that I said yesterday with you, but I'd like you to explain, you know, to investors and to people watching the video here, where it went wrong. You know, I mean, did it go wrong on the over-promotion? Did it go wrong on all the assets that you signed up for, all the companies that you brought into it? Like yesterday, we went through all the companies and all the assets that, all the deals that you'd signed, and not one of those assets came to fruition. So, you know, can you explain to me where you think it actually went wrong?
I think it was overly optimistic. You know, you know, those deals are still there. You know, we still have the arrangements with the likes of Pertamina, PEP, Siemens. They're still there, but the problem is they just take so long. You know, this is the issue we've got with this wellhead IPP strategy, is that we went out talking about delivering 5 projects, I think it was, within X number of years, and it just takes a long time. And I feel that it was an overly optimistic strategy. We sat around waiting for things to happen. We're not in the driving seat on these, where there's too many moving parts, too many stakeholders. You've got state-owned enterprise with Pertamina, state-owned enterprise with PLN. Bringing them all together has taken a lot longer than... so I think it was an ambitious, big company strategy. You know, any major oil company would be extremely pleased with our progress, but it just doesn't suit a company of our size right now. You know, in 10 or 15 years' time, if Andalas is of a size where we could accommodate this time of sort of duration, I would say it's worked out well. But for us, no, it's an overly ambitious big company strategy.
Yeah, but that's a strategy that investors invested somewhere between 7.5 to 8 million pounds, and not one of these investments or one of these deals or with these partners came to fruition. So what I'd like to ask you is, where did that money go? You know, can you give us a breakdown of where that money went?
Yeah,
well, as Dave Whitby now in Australia, you know, living in a big mansion, having pocketed £3 or £4 million, because that's what we want to know. Where's the money gone?
For Dave. I can certainly speak for myself and the other board members that are still here. We certainly are not in a financially good position ourselves. We put a lot of money into this company. In terms of where the money went, you know, if can I compare? Look at my notes here, because I did, based on our discussion yesterday, we did go away and have a look at this, because this is all in the financial accounts, but I think it just helps to sort of bracket it and put it into perspective. If we look at it in percentage terms, I think directors, expenditure on directors was just under 20%. Due diligence, which was the main activity in the early phase of, you know, late 2015, early 2016, we were looking at up to 15 assets, and about 38% of that spend went on the due diligence, buying data, consultants. You know, we had at peak, I think we had 5 or 6 expats in country, which is expensive. Yeah. I don't deny it. It was an expensive big company strategy, and you know, we progressing on things like TOE. We had to bid twice on a rig for the drilling of the TOE well, and because of delays by the counterparty in securing Pertamina's approval, we had to delay that particular element, and then we had to do it again, and that costs money. So that was the due diligence was a significant part of it. Brokers and cost, I think, worked out about 18%. That's Nomad brokers. Bulk of it leading up to the reverse, which took place in was it May 2016. There was the reverse itself, which is about 13%. And then we've got travel and accommodation, it's about 12%.
Yeah. So you can put your hand on your heart and you can account for all that money and say the vast majority
yes,
of that
I can.
money.
Yeah, absolutely, and we have. I mean, it's in the accounts.
Into E&P, and there's no secret payments or anything like that that have gone out. And these consultants weren't friends of friends or any of that, and friends of Dave Whitby, and these companies that took the consultancy fees, they weren't orchestrated or formed by Dave Whitby or anything like that. So what you're saying to me, Simon, is basically that the guy that was leading the company pre you came in was a dreamer. And he dreamed a big dream, and it turned into a nightmare. And because everything that he'd done, and just to give give you a flavour of where I'm at and where people like me and Tom Winifrith come from. We don't just look at the company from May 2015 when Dave Whitby come in. We look at the company from day one, from the IPO. So the company that you're now the new CEO of, that used to be called Adval. It was called Adval. Then it changed its name to Clean Energy Brazil. Then it changed its name to CEB. Then it changed its name to Andalas. And and no doubt along the line you're going to change the name again. So what we've got is we've got a company that came to market in about 1998 that raised over £130 million at £1 a share. Now I know you're not responsible for that, but that's how we look at it. And along the journey of this company, different people have come in at different stages and promised the earth, and none of them have ever delivered anything. So you're now at the stage where you're the new CEO, and I take it for granted that you're not responsible, solely for the whole Whitby area, So what I'd like to know is, what difference are you to all the others that have come in and promised paradise but delivered hell?
Well, I think it's about delivery. I mean, for me personally, I'm not prepared to issue RNSs like the historical ones. I'd rather we focus on delivery. We'll make announcements when there's a material announcement to make. We're not going to promise the earth, and I'm certainly not going to wave my arms around promising deadlines and this is we're going to do this and do that. We're trying to give shareholders value. We got to return the value. I mean, look, I'm a shareholder, as are members of our board, and we're all hurting just like the other shareholders. We've lost a lot of money. We accept that, and I apologise on behalf of Andalas to what's happened. I can't turn back the clock. It's a regret that we've ended up like this. But I believe this strategy is going to lead us out of this. But only time will tell. And I see Badger as the first step, and we hope to continue that step and grow the company. I'm genuinely passionately involved in trying to get this out of it. I'm very pleased with the team we've got now. We've got a very tight team we haven't got any hangers on, let's put it that way. Okay. I believe that every person in this team is pulling their weight, and we have complementary skills, and we've managed to significantly reduce the costs. We're down to a level which is commensurate of a company of our market cap. So I mean, I accept the criticism. Obviously, as you said, I wasn't totally involved in those. I wasn't involved in the drafting these RNSs, but I accept the criticism. It's been a very painful process for all of us.
Right. So just let me give you a flavour of how I see it and how most of the investors now see it. After what we were saying about the company, what myself and Share Profits and Tom Winifrith were saying about this company, basically from day one of when Dave Whitby came in. And also we were also saying that about the company when it was under the previous management of CEB. Was it Cameron Pearce and was it Jemmy King, I think? Yeah. And these guys, exited and parachuted out with big payments and shares and all the rest of it. Do you know what I mean? So this is what investors are hit with. Yeah, this is November the 24th. Now, as you know, I've got lots of RNSs, so I'm only going to read out one, which is indicative of the whole rantastic nonsense that went on in Andalas Energy. And you have to, as you've held your hands up, this Dave Whitby needs to be held accountable for what he's done. So this is December the 2015, and I won't go through it all, but this is about SIAC. SIAC is located in a prolific hydrocarbon region adjacent to the PT Chevron Chevron Pacific Indonesia operated Rokan PSC production sharing contract from which 11 billion barrels of oil have been recovered since 1952 and which produced 335 barrels of oil per day in 2012, accounting for 39% of Indonesia's total oil in production from the fields including the super major Mimas and Dumi fields. Now that's just one part, and I've highlighted it in red. You know, in all these RNSs, what was absolutely ridiculous. But that was indicative of how Dave Whitby ran the company. You know, the CEO that you worked under ran the company and then used facts about other companies to push the share price of his company. And regarding all this rantastic nonsense, that was indicative of the right up to the death throes of Dave Whitby. You know, so can you look into the camera and tell shareholders and say, look, you know, them days are gone. You know, there's a new era, there's a new sheriff in town, and you know, I'm going to run this company the proper way without being not overly optimistic, but not being ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm happy to say that. I'm going to run this company the way it should be run. I'm not going to be overly optimistic. Yeah. I'm going to be giving factual information to shareholders and looking to return value to shareholders. That's my mission. I'm here to do that for myself and for the shareholders.
Okay, so I will have to wrap up here, but it's been really interesting to have you both on the show.
I'm not finished.
What's the other question?
Well, I'd just like to go through and go through what you said regarding the Corsair loan.
Corsair loan, yeah, that's that one.
Can you explain that, how that came about, and how it
that Corsair loan goes back to CEB Resources, CEB Resources. That actually was. I mean, I think you asked us yesterday, what was that loan for? And we argued it should actually be just expensed, but they wanted it to be classified as a loan. It was eventually, if you look at the accounts, it's eventually been sorted out. It's been effectively reversed, if you like. That loan is no longer there. So that money, whatever it was, the 500,000 that you've talked about, went into the company. You know, it funded the D&D, it funded the salaries, consultants, running costs, everything to do with the early startup of that phase of Andalas, the early stage of Andalas. You know, we had to buy a lot of data for some of the assets, so it funded that. So it wasn't if you look through the accounts, I think it was whenever it was announced, I think it took about 3 to 6 months.
So what you've said there is that, you know, I know that was given, that loan was initiated before you came into the company. So what you're saying now is that the loan that was, the market were told was $500,000 and that would come back with, in its entirety, with 5% interest, actually wasn't a loan. It was a mechanism used so that due diligence could proceed in Indonesia through Corsair Petroleum. Yes. Well, why wasn't that just said at the beginning?
I don't know.
Why did it take 6 months to 9 months for that to come out in the accounts? And I've read the accounts, and basically it doesn't say that in the accounts. What you just said, the simplistic terminology that you've used to explain that still doesn't come through in the accounts. So my advice to you going forward is that you've got to stop and think about the impact of what you say in RNSs. It's really important that you're not over a bullion on RNSs like these.
No, I agree.
Where you're putting buzzwords in of 11 billion barrels, 335,000 barrels of oil a day, because investors jump on that.
Sure.
And they start to they misconstrue it. And it's my contention that Whitby knew what he was doing. He's not a fool, he's a clever guy, and that was it. That's what he'd done. If I read every RNS from the day you guys came in, even today, as a normal man in the street, you would say, wow, what a fantastic company. But today we stand, on the verge of, was it 1/100th of a penny per share. So in order to stop that, all this puffery and buffoonery and rantastic and pump and dumping has to stop. And the company, has to align itself with genuine investors and genuine platforms, that promote the company properly, and they don't promote the company with, the Dave Whitby phone calls and text messages and emails. All that has to stop if your company is going to have a chance going forward.
I agree.
Now the best RNS that's ever came out of Andalas Energy was yesterday.
Thank
now
you.
if you stick to that, you know, you've got a chance. So to wrap it up,
Dan, I appreciate your comments. We've taken them all on board, and we will follow exactly that. We are not going to
stay away from the pump and dumpers.
Point taken. So thank you for that.
Maybe, Daniel, we can come back in 6 months and we can see the result of Simon's strategy. And then if you have more questions, you can ask them to him and see where we are in maybe 6 months' time.
We'll see, but I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Well, my advice is to stick to the way you released yesterday's RNS. You know, tell it as it is, whether it's good news or bad news. Just tell it as it is. And if you can do that, maybe you know, on your road to Damascus, you can convert me.
Well, thanks, Dan. Thanks, Stefania.
Okay, thank you very much. This is everything from the Financial Fox. See you next time.